Welcome to Echo, the podcast where we share our personal perspectives on questions about God, spirituality, and the Seventh-day Adventist Church. I'm Ryan Becker, your host. No matter who you are, we hope that you find value and encouragement through real discussions about real things. Let's jump in. Echo.
This episode of the Echo Podcast is sponsored by Southern Adventist University.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Echo. I am excited to be joined by two wonderful guests today, Rachel Beaver and Paola Alvarez, right? Alvarez? Yes, okay, sweet. So thank you guys for coming on. Before we kind of jump into today's topic, why don't you guys tell us just a little bit about yourself? And Rachel, we can start with you.
Okay. Well, I'm Rachel Beaver. I am a communications intern at the Carolina Conference currently.
Cool.
And I'm Paola Alvarez. I work in Treasury as the secretary there.
Gotcha. Very cool. So really glad to have you both on. And the reason for this, I think one of the things I appreciate the most about this podcast is that we do things a little bit differently in that a lot of podcasts seek to speak or bring on people that are like big names or experts, and either whether self-proclaimed or they have enough letters next to their name, right? And the problem with those conversations is while that's great and everything, the problem is that people can't really relate to a lot of the things that are shared when that happens. Either the conversations take place at such an academically high level that no one understands them anymore, or they're just like from a completely different world and realm. Right. And what I love about what we do is it's not that you guys aren't experts or that you aren't important people. You guys are. That's the whole point. Is you are important people. And I'm an important person, at least to me and my dog. So it is important that we hear stories and talk about the topics that we do from a perspective that matches the people that listen, right? Definitely. So I'm super grateful that you guys are here.
Thank you.
And really excited to talk about this. This is today's topic. We're going to jump into how to support friends who are depressed. And I think there will be a little bit of I think there will also be a little bit of overlap there between what do I do when I'm the depressed one too, potentially. Yeah. And this is one that everyone gets kind of stuck in at some point as friends are either, and I think depression takes on many forms, right? It could be a temporary depression as the result of a breakup or a trauma, or it could be literally like clinical depression that is carried through for years. Right. And so I think we can hit some things that address all of that. Mm-hmm. So just for those who are in that kind of position right now that are listening, that are depressed or do have a friend that is depressed, a couple things. I'm not really sure where this conversation will go. So trigger warning in advance if anything does come up that may, that may be sensitive to you or to someone you know. We just want you to be prepared for that. So if you're like listening to this on the way to an important meeting, maybe not. maybe either change the meeting or listen to this when you're on your way back or something. Right. But I don't know. I have no idea. So I just wanted to be in the interest of full transparency, let people know this is a heavy topic, and sometimes the things that are shared will be heavy. So with that, talking about friends that are depressed, I know that I have been the depressed friend and I've had the depressed friends. Okay. I have them now. Kind of let's go with initial thoughts here as far as, is there some instances maybe in your life or where you have had to kind of meet the needs or serve someone who is in a depressed position?
Yeah, definitely. Oh, goodness. Yeah. Can't imagine anybody who hasn't gotten through depression before. And like you said, it comes in so many shapes and forms. Mm-hmm. From a breakup, like you said. I mean, I can relate to that. Having gotten through 2 pregnancies, I did get depressed with my first one, and I didn't know about it until months later. And I'm thinking, what is happening to me? And some people might think that that's not really depression, but you have to be the one to go through it to find out. Mm-hmm. But I can't imagine anybody who at one point in their life have not gone through depression. Some are very chronic, some are just stationary, but we all have gone through it. So I think everybody can relate to this topic.
Yeah, and it can definitely be kind of a scary thing to deal with too. I know in my experience, I also have both been the depressed friend and had depressed friends. I've had friends that have been very close to making very, very rash decisions, and some that succeeded in those rash decisions. So it's a topic that's close to my heart.
Yes, absolutely. So let's start with the let's start with what not to do. In your experience, maybe what are things that you what are things that were either shared with you or shared with people you know that like were the least helpful, right, in that situation, or the things that were either maybe they meant them with good intentions, but they were just plain straight up disrespectful at the end of the day. What are some of the things that you may have come across or encountered?
One of the things that I know that was said to me, and some of my friends have had this said to them, is just pray. And I know that's like, as Christians, that's our go-to. And the thought is definitely there and it's genuine, but in the moment, especially in the really dark moments, that is not what you want to hear, and it doesn't seem very helpful, especially in the moments where you're like, you really feel like God doesn't hear you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It is, and the key word, the operative word at the end of there being feel, right? It's not that it's not that God isn't listening, but God does operate in his timing. And there's a difference between the way that I kind of picture this is when God heals a wound, he's looking to heal the wound in a kind of sustainable or long-term way. And what you're looking for in those moments is you're looking for just a Band-Aid.
Right.
And God may not be looking at the Band-Aid portion of it. He may be looking to actually clean out the wound and do some stuff that may take a little bit longer than just throwing a Band-Aid to stop the current bleeding.
Right.
And so he works differently than maybe what we're looking for in that moment. And it's not that God can't provide what we're looking for, but there is just I get the phrase "misery loves its company," but this idea of like, can we just sit in this for a minute? Like, can we we just acknowledge that this is not normal?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's huge. Just pray is one of the frustrating ones for sure.
Right. Another thing that I have encountered is, people, and again, they're trying to do their best to see you, because when you have a loved one that you're seeing in that stage, your human nature is to try to fix the situation, and they're telling you what you should do so you can get out of that depression. And there's not a recipe, mix this with that, and by the end of the day, you're going to be okay. It is a time process. It takes time. Depression is not I was depressed today, but tomorrow I'm okay. I mean, it's not like that. It doesn't work like that. It takes time. So I think that, when people approach other people to try to help a friend who's depressed, you can't just go in there thinking that what you're going to say, it's going to be okay by the end of the conversation. That person is going to be okay. That's the wrong way to go in.
Well, I think in many cases when it comes to depression, and I've seen this from church people more often than not, because we do tend to go with a kind of an oversimplified answer a lot of the times. But it's what ends up happening is it's a lot of sunburned people telling people who are literally on fire how to avoid getting a sunburn. Right? They completely mistake the fire for what that one day they were sad. Or, oh yeah, I was depressed once. I went through a breakup, but I got over it. I was fine.
Yeah.
And they project, and while yes, you can, and that's fine. What it is you're projecting your experience with onto someone else. Right. Whether it's, oh, you should just do more exercise, or you should eat more, or you should eat better. Eat a better diet, or anything like that. It's yes, those are good things, but they don't work the same way for every single person.
Correct.
And we tend to just say, oh, this is the miracle cure. Right. This is the thing that you need. This is the thing that you've been missing. Have you tried this?
Yes.
And it ends up being a guilt thing too, because when you, especially for those in chronic depression, they don't have the energy or the motivation to be able to get up and do something. I had a friend who, after something traumatic happened, he forgot, like he would step into the shower and he would forget how to shower. Like he literally couldn't process it. Like he would just, he'd just freeze. And you hear that, and I've told that to some people, and they've kind of laughed, and then they thought about it, right? Because it seems funny and it seems like such a simple thing to forget, but when your brain is hurt that much, when you're fractured, The simple stuff gets hard. So go tell me to run a mile. I can't even get out of bed.
Right.
Can't even take a shower. Like I can't process that.
Right.
I even watched a time lapse video of a woman who'd been depressed for like 3 years, and she made a time lapse of she finally got the courage and the motivation and energy to clean her room, and she time lapsed it.
Goodness.
It was like a 6-hour process, but her room was stacked with trash and just her bed had enough space for like her body, and that was it. And it's a process to get to the place where you can start making the changes.
Yes.
And so until you're there, you just need someone to be with you almost.
Correct. Yeah, that's all you can do. It's really, be there for that person. And like you said, and also I've noticed that some type of depressions required medication. And it's like when you say the word medication, that's not the right way to do it,
There's like a stigma against it.
Yeah, because like saying, like Christians should not medicate themselves through depression because Jesus isn't in our lives.
Yeah, why do you need medicine when you have Jesus?
Yeah,
right.
Or they say, well, it messes with your mind, or it messes with your. Well, so does ibuprofen. So does so does Tylenol, and everything messes with what your body is doing.
Right.
And one of the things that I realized on this, a friend of mine and I were talking. I was recently diagnosed with ADHD. And as we were talking about medication and things, which I am on medication, she made the point of saying, like, it's not that you are taking medication because you're not good enough or whatever. It's because the medication provides the balance in your body for you to be a normal person. Yeah. It like physiologically does that work.
Depression is not a it is part of your psychological state of mind, but it does affect your physically.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And that's where the medication comes in. It targets the physical part of your health, So whenever you hear somebody telling other people, you should not do medication, I don't think that's correct.
And that can be discouraging too to someone who is dealing with depression because in a way, if you're making the decision, you're like, okay, I'm going to go on medication to fix this. That's a pretty big step. That's like the first step saying like, hey, yes, I acknowledge that I have an issue and I want this issue to be fixed. That in itself takes a lot of courage. Yeah. So then telling someone, oh, you don't need medication, you could,
pray more.
Yeah, just pray more.
Pray more.
And this is the way, like, I don't see faith as, this is just me personally speaking here, but I don't see faith as the answer to life's problems. I see faith as the tool to endure life's problems. So I see prayer being a part of the process, but prayer is not the answer, right? And simply believing that Jesus will heal you is not enough. You actually have to let the healing take place. I think of the blind man who had mud rubbed in his eyes. If he just believed that Jesus would heal him, cool. But he had to also let the mud get rubbed on his eyes, right? So even with medication, medication is not making you someone that you're not.
Correct.
Medication, now granted, if you have adverse reactions, that's different, right? So, but medication is helping you be the person that you were meant to be, right? It's helping you be the state of normal that everyone else is.
Yeah.
And so, I am
it's just getting you to a stage of being able to sleep. You know, I mean, you can pray all you want, but if you can't sleep, then that's when that kind of stuff. And they're tools to get you through the process. You know what I mean? So
yes, absolutely. And that's not saying either. That's not going. We're not swinging the other way. I don't think and say everyone should be on medication if they're upset. It's a thing that you talk over with your doctor, with your family, whole 9 yards there. Yeah. It is something to explore personally in your life, but. I can say, at least within the realm of ADHD, which is different, don't get me wrong, and the medication works differently completely in that realm versus depression. Even the friends of mine who have been depressed, the medication has made all the difference in the world for them specifically. So, definitely something to investigate for someone who's in that position. So, when it comes to supporting a friend who's depressed, what is, we've talked about the negative stuff and the stigma's there, but what do I do? What are some of the good things that I can do for someone?
Oh my gosh. I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind is just love that person. I mean, don't sometimes, and I've been in that stage where, what can you say? I mean, there's nothing you can say that would magically heal that person at that moment. So just love them, hug them, clean their house, make them food, I don't know, clean their bathroom. I don't know, anything that would show that you care.
Yep.
Instead of telling them to pray for them.
Yeah.
Like fervently and be like, God, show me how to help this person if you don't know what to say. And if you can tell that they've been isolated, like you said, go over, to them, do things for them, invite them out if being around friends helps.
And that's the difference too, is for someone in that kind of position, oftentimes they can't, if we like to say, if you need anything, let me know. The problem is they're not going to let you know, and they don't know what they need.
Yeah.
So sometimes it can be as simple of, instead of saying, if you need anything, let me know, say, hey, do you need help cleaning your house? I'm happy to come over. And like, I know one story where that was the case.
Yes.
Someone was dealing with a cancer diagnosis, and their friend came over and said, hey, I'm coming Tuesday. I'm going to clean your house. Yeah. They didn't force themselves in. They didn't do it behind their back. They didn't assume that was going to be the thing that made their life immediately better or solve their problems, but it was something to say, you are carrying a heavy burden. Let me share the load.
Oh, yes.
That's the difference.
Yes.
Let me share that load with you. So making suggestions to say, not just if there's anything, but,
Right.
just think about the things that need to get done.
Yeah.
Do you need help do you need someone to go to the doctor with you? Do you need, any number of things.
I know exactly. I'm telling you.
That don't involve just trying to solve their problem, but just help them get through it.
Yeah. Because, sometimes you go visit that person and that person that you're visiting sometimes, is thinking, oh, somebody's coming and I need to make this place a little bit better, because they think that they need to work so you can come and see them. Don't do that. When you're going to go visit somebody, just don't go empty-handed. And that doesn't mean that you have to have something physical in your hands, but go in there and just have a conversation with that person while you do the dishes, or to me, that's how you show that you care.
That you support them.
In
their steps to recovery.
Yeah.
So there is this idea of letting people grieve the way they're going to grieve, or let people, get through what they need to get through. But sometimes that behavior becomes self-destructive and granted, almost all behavior when you're depressed, at least at a chronic or like major depression, is self-destructive to some extent. If you're not able to remember how to shower, if you can't get out of bed, that is destructive to the things in your life, whether you're missing appointments, missing work, missing school, friendships, that kind of thing, right? So do you have any words of advice or any words of encouragement for someone who, how do I confront, right? What are the things that where's the line? Where do I let this play out versus where do I stop this behavior? Where do I tell them, no, this needs to stop now, versus, this is a part of the process, we got to get through it. What do you think the line is?
I think that if a friend is going through this, definitely recommend that they get help. There's no shame in going to see someone or talking to someone about it or going on medication. Show that you support them in those decisions. And if it comes to the point where, they're, contemplating suicide and it's serious, call someone, call the police.
Yeah. I want to echo that last point because there's this tension that comes from I've told them I won't tell anyone about this. They've trusted me.
Yeah.
I would rather my friend be alive and angry with me than be dead because I wanted to keep a secret.
Right.
That's when it comes to suicide and kind of confidentiality and depression. I think if it is a destructive behavior, whether it's cutting, whether it is contemplating suicide, any sort of direct physical harm to them or someone else, especially if they are if you would deem them a threat to themselves or to someone else. Yeah. I think that's when you say, all right, we got to it's time to intervene here.
Absolutely. Right.
Specifically, we can deal with the other stuff. I get that it's hard to wake up in the morning. I get that it's hard to shower, whatever. But this has to stop now. This cannot be a part of the grief process if it's harmful to them or someone else.
But I notice that, when somebody does that and they get somebody else involved, people take a step back. And I think that's a mistake because if you're going to get somebody else involved, you better stay involved. You know what I mean? It's not okay, it's in somebody else's hands now. I need a break. Really? I mean, if this is a real friend or a family member or someone that you care about, you don't quit halfway through. You know, you stay through it, because that's another way to show that you really care. Care is not just about getting somebody to help you. Care is, I want to see this through.
Yeah.
And
the possibility of them getting mad is there, because it can be.
Oh, they'll definitely be mad.
It can be
at the start.
embarrassing because no one wants to talk about it.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the other side of this too. A lot of people take a step back because the other person forces them to, right? They tell them, no, don't talk to me ever again. Like, you told someone and I didn't, how dare you, whatever. And so I think it's worth sending a message or telling that person, like, hey, look, I get that you're mad at me for doing this. I fully understand. If the day ever comes that you do want to talk again, or, whatever. Because what ends up happening is, in the grief moment, in the anger and feeling betrayed moment, they lash out. But then when they're done, when they get through the entire process, right, and they're kind of back to normal, so to speak, and all that is worn off, then they start to feel bad, like, that person really did save me, and then I kicked them out. So,
and that's how you show Jesus. You know, you don't take it personally. You know, you don't take it personal. I mean, it's you have to understand that's just a reaction to the situation.
Hopefully they'll realize that you did it because you love them.
Yeah. And you just, that's another way to show Jesus. You know, you stick through it and you understand why they do what they do.
Always keep a foot in the door, always keep the door open for them to come in, whatever that you can do to basically just show them that you are supporting them, but also not trying to dictate how they should live their life specifically. It's literally just, I'm intervening because I'm worried about your life. And if we never talk again, but you're alive, I will take that trade. It's a hard trade. Don't get me, like, I get the tension of, it's an easy trade when I say it out loud. It's a hard trade when you're in the moment. Right. And you're so close to the fire, you can't see anything. You can't see anything else. And so, I would. Yeah, huge. Okay. So I think those are all some really great thoughts. And so thank you both for sharing. And I know that a lot of that has come from a place of personal struggle as well.
Yes.
So thank you for your vulnerability and honesty. Any kind of words of encouragement or final thoughts as we kind of wrap up here?
If this is something that you're dealing with, you're definitely not alone. There is help out there. There are people talking about it. You do not have to feel like you are by yourself in this situation.
And I would say that if you are that friend that has a friend that is going through that, just be there, love them, show it. Just don't say it, show it. And
Absolutely.
There's just definitely many ways you can do that.
Well, Rachel and Paola, thank you so much for being on today. And to anyone out there, if you do have a friend who's struggling with something or you're struggling with something, please don't hesitate to call for help, whether it is a friend, whether it's a pastor, whether it's a teacher, a former teacher maybe, a friend or a family member, whatever you need, whoever you need to talk to. I would strongly encourage that. And we know that we here are praying for you, and we'll continue to pray for you. And thank you so much for listening and being a part of this journey with us. We'll see you next time. Hey guys, thanks so much for listening to this episode of Echo. We hope you enjoyed it. To stay up to date with new episodes as we release them, and for more awesome content from Project Refresh, a ministry of the Carolina Conference of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and go ahead and
This
hit that
episode of the
subscribe
Echo
button below.
Podcast is
And
sponsored
don't
by
forget to
Southern
like and
Adventist
leave a
University.
comment.